A stunningly beautiful man with a strong body actually turned into a naive baby, lying comfortably on the bed and sleeping soundly. He suddenly opened his eyes, and the bubble at the tip of his nose burst. He raised his tiny hands in disbelief. His whole body was small, just like a child. A cool breeze blew outside, making him shiver. He must be dreaming. Before he could ask God again, he was dragged into the arms of a woman. I didn't expect it to be a stunning beauty. Grabbed his little head and murmured softly. Chen was moving quickly sleep. He quietly swallowed his saliva. So this is not a dream at all. How so like the plot of the crossover? Now the situation is a little complicated after first stroke. Read the memory of this little guy. This is the world of cultivation, called Tianchuan continent. My clan is called the Immortal Edge of the Holy Land. The power belongs to the middle to low. There are 4 main peaks in the sacred land of immortal fate: the Jade Heavenly Court, a heavenly enlightenment, and the immortal Yao Peak. And my mother is the peak master of Xian Yao Peak. Yi Qingdao has countless disciples, but they are all female. She had 7 close disciples, all as beautiful as fairies with extraordinary temperaments, always taking turns to take care of the 7-year-old Yi Chen. Yi Chen's eyes shone brightly after he finished recalling. His small face even looked obscene. The one who accompanied me today is the 4th senior sister. Host, welcome to the Tianchuan continent. Now activate the holy body of the Holy Spirit. It seems to be the standard small system to pass the book to come also. He was still spouting nonsense in his heart when his body suddenly seemed to enter a ball of flame. The little kid immediately rolled over in pain. What's wrong with his body is so hot? It's the kind of hot that can't be tolerated at all. Why is his body like a ball of fire, making his heart constantly thumping and pounding? Immediately after, the system added the know-how for him and warned him to cultivate as soon as possible, or else his body would explode and die. The supreme immortal body is a rare body that transforms into one's own cultivation in a matter of breath, and the Shunwu Hongwu decree shakes the heavens and shocks the earth when it's completed. Congratulations to the host on the completion of the technique. The current cultivation level of the first day of the Wenyin stage. The system will activate the release of the signing test. Little Yi Chen had no cultivation at all, but I didn't think I'd become a winning powerhouse in just a few hours. But I just simply practice a gong. How to also practice the body to the big. This world is so mysterious. Now here is not the time to be shocked. The 4th elder sister has already got up. If scene cannot be explained clearly, this is the system. Suddenly send props. Stick on the body can make people produce illusion. No matter visual or tactile cannot distinguish. This props really come in time. But the 4th elder sister, look at their eyes. How can be so surprised? It seems to have been recognized. So shouldn't I get ready to run away? From the perspective of others, Yi Chen is still young. How did you sit on the ground? How are your clothes all torn? Yi Chen suddenly relieved. I fell down in a sleepy daze. This prop is quite good. In her eyes I am still a child. The 4th elder sister blamed herself for picking him up. Elder sister did not take good care of Chen. Let you fall painted. But the action of lifting up is a little hard. Is it my illusion? How do I feel that you have become much heavier? This illusion talisman is really strong. Weight can be changed, although it cannot be the same as the weight of children, but at least it can be fooled. In a short period of time, he was given a new task: to learn the art of alchemy from the 5th senior sister. So he had to look back to the 4th senior sister. What is the arrangement today? I didn't expect 4th senior sister to change into new clothes. What do you want to do? Meditate and practice or luck? Yi Chen's face turned red, showing a look. I want to be the 6th elder sister. The 4th sister turned around in confusion. I completely did not understand the look. You want to be what? Our little Tatsuya had a nosebleed and fell to the ground with no regrets. She rushed to hold little Tatsuya and flew to the palace of the immortal Yao Holy Mother. Master little Tatsuya had an accident. When he woke up in the morning, he was still fine, but suddenly he fainted with a nosebleed. Just a moment later, he was still wearing a weird smile on his face, lying on the bed in dissatisfaction, wanting the 4th elder sister to continue to hold him. It seems that Chen had a seizure from his practice. Let him try the Hualingdan that I begged for. Hopefully he can resist the effects of the medicine. After all, he was pretending to be unconscious, and his mother fed him a small pill. Is this to treat a living horse as a dead horse? Seeing his mother feeding him, I can take this opportunity to become my original appearance. So he acted like a madman, showing that he was in so much pain that he couldn't spit out the pills he had taken. Immediately after the time was ripe, he quietly removed the talisman on top of his head, which would not be able to continue to disguise his identity. At this time, the energy surrounding him suddenly revealed a dazzling golden light. Chen actually, in a short period of time, transformed into a handsome young man. He immediately stood up and pretended to look at himself. How did I grow up all of a sudden? And then he raised his innocent little head. He exaggeratedly pointed at his mother. What kind of pills did you give me? It's simply too magical. But our fourth senior sister didn't believe it at all. Instantly raised her fist and flew at him. What did the demon do to my Chen? He had to fight to take this fatal blow. He still has to prove his innocence. A fourth senior sister is really me. There's a small black mole on the bottom of your foot. It proves that I'm me. Right. Even Master doesn't know about this. Only little Chen knows about the little black mole. Are you really little Chen? After a few minutes, my mother's eyes were glowing with anticipation. I could feel the surging aura in his body. It's a world-rare emperor's posture. My good son, little Tatsu, is finally able to practice his skills. But I want to learn the art of disguise. I'll be envied if I suddenly have such a miracle. So I want to learn disguise to save my life in times of crisis. Yiqin Dao is very satisfied with this. My son is also so considerate. Then you go along with the learning of disguise technique. The fourth elder sister was not in the right state at all. The child who slept with me last night has turned into a handsome young man all of a sudden. She suddenly felt a hint of something wrong. Now that Chen has fallen into the hands of the third sister, I'm afraid something big is going to happen. Inside a building in a peach blossom forest, sneezing sounds came from inside one after another. It turned out to be the third sister, and Miao, holding a secret book in her hand, suddenly felt that someone was scolding her. At this time, there was a knock on the door, which signaled that the visitor was in a very excited mood. It was actually our little Chen who knocked on the door. He turned into an adult and touched his head in embarrassment. Good day, third senior sister. I'm little Chen, but he hurriedly apologized. I didn't know you were changing clothes. The third senior sister said it's okay. It's not the first time you've seen it, he explained with a reddened face. I took the elixir that my mother brought, and I am already different from before. And Miao Han sat her charmingly on the chair. I heard the master mentioned, really good, taller and more handsome. He showed a lot of unease about this. The eyes of the third elder sister were very naked. As expected, she was a bit tongue-tied. Our little Tatsuya has really become handsome, simply more and more delicious. He suddenly smiled shyly, worthy of being the famous senior sister. Flirting kung fu is really strong. Third sister slowly stood up. You want to learn the art of disguise. You must be proficient in the 4 items of skin, bones, face and tendon. These introductory books will be delivered to you first. Memorize them thoroughly before you speak. He looked through the books with a puzzled face, and then raised his head with a pained face. He couldn't understand such complexity. Just now the third elder sister sneaked close to him. Little Chen does not like it. Sister teach you how to charm art. He immediately shyly picked up the books and left. I still think the disguise is interesting. I'll go back and read slowly. However, a jade foot blocked the doorway, causing him to stop thinking about escaping. After all, my sister's book is a top secret, cannot be taken out of this room. You want to see can only be here, so you can stay and read it slowly, and you can spend the night with me. Only to see him dizzy and smiling, oblivious to the fact that he answered. But what exactly does it mean? The third elder sister then went to change her clothes again, but she still didn't forget to tell him to read at ease and not to look at random. But the weather is really to people. She has to go out. Yiqin said she was talking nonsense. She can't have me haunted. Now what to do? Completely cannot read into. This has to be when to learn. He did not collapse for a long time. The door came to the sound of the report. The peak master ordered to go to the assembly of the council hall. Wherever there's a lot of activity, there's him. Ding Wuyun is here again, asking us to prepare the birthday gift for the sect leader according to his list. His chest was filled with anger, but before he had a chance to get angry, even angry curses rained out from behind him. It's really the big bastard Jade Peak. Does he really think that our immortal Yao Peak is inferior to them? What kind of storm does he want to create here? Chen suddenly hooked up a smile. The wrongdoer is here. A loud and angry shout came from the main peak in the distance. What are you all doing? It's been so many days. Just prepare this shit. Is it for you to send out the beggar? This is Xin Yao Peak's intention for Chen Peak Master's birthday. Since it's an intention, it's all precious herbs. But this stupid old man is still dissatisfied. I asked you to prepare the racks, then threw her a rotten peach. Lin Shi was furious. You are a small elder. How dare you disrespect our Peak Master? The stupid old man is not afraid of threats. You dare to talk to me like this? You don't want to work in the Immortal Fake Holy Land. You also deserve to yell at me. I heard a dog barking from far away, and it turned out to be a male dog. You stupid old man are nothing. I'm going back to report to the Peak Master. You won't get half a taels of silver next month. Elder Dane, please don't be angry. It's all a misunderstanding. We're willing to make amends. Please don't take it to Master Chen. How can you compensate for this gift? She can only cope with a return. As long as we have, we'll certainly give you the gift. Elder Dean's expression is very lewd. I heard that sister as charming skills are very good. If you can serve me happily, I will not forget the little man's fault. Xian Yao Peak Master just wanted to refuse, but Miao Han agreed. But my methods are too strong. I'm afraid that Elder Dean can't afford it. I have a personal sister who learned my techniques. Are you willing to give it a try? After hearing Elder Dean's affirmative reply, she immediately clapped her hands and summoned Little Butterfly to come and serve Elder Dean. The first thing that appeared was a jade leg, which was so white and flawless that the old man was instantly bewildered. Xiao Dao walked towards the front. What is the matter with you, sister? Elder Dean has been charmed by the old man, so let's give the old man a set of soul-crushing and bone-crushing highs. Xiao Dao slightly grabbed a corner of his, gently answered, Elder Dean, please follow me. Ling Shi is full of questions. Who is this person? How come I don't remember Zhong Yao Peak? There is such a disciple. Elder Dean, come quickly. Xiao Dai has long been sitting on the bed in a ladylike manner, waiting for the old man to hurry up and get into bed. Little beauty, you are really killing me. Xian Yao Peak really lives up to its name. Everyone is a top beauty. Afterwards, he instantly took off his clothes. His arms slowly opened and pounced on the beauty in front of him. The little beauty shyly covered her body tightly and smiled shyly at him with pursed lips. Elder, don't be in a hurry. The corners of Elder Dean's mouth were dripping with saliva. Finally, I can see it with my own eyes. I will come to Xian Yao Peak every day from now on. At this moment, his body suddenly became stiff, and his frantically furrowed eyebrows signaled his shocked mood at this moment. But before he could react, he was kicked out by the person inside, and even smashed through the door panel. He pointed inside in grief. You're actually a man, but he could only bite his teeth and swallow it down. Only then did Chen slowly walk out. It seems that the disguise was very successful, until the last step was not discovered by you. Elder Dean's mouth was wide open in anger. Xian Yao Peak even has a man. I want to report to the Peak Master for heavy punishment. Chen is not accustomed to this problem. A man who only snitches. Directly a flying kick up. Then what the hell are you doing here? This time the behavior is too bad. In broad daylight, actually beat Elder Dean like this. Xian Yao Peak is a place for female disciples to cultivate themselves, but there are men in it. It's too arrogant. It must be investigated. How could there be a man in Xian Yao Peak? We've only had female disciples for hundreds of years. How could there be a man in here? Elder Dean angrily hands down his stool. It's your senior sister Xiao Dai. She's a man in disguise. We've never had this disciple in Xian Yao Peak. Where did Elder Dean hear this name? He stood up aggressively. You are pretending to be confused, right? Just now it was you who asked her to take me to do. He didn't say the next words, and then realized that something wasn't quite right. Elder Dean, why did you show up in our Xian Yao Peak room wearing only your underwear? According to the rules, disciples from other peaks are not allowed to go near the practice room of Xian Yao Peak, not to mention the naked bathing place. The Peak Master then looked over to his side. Elder Dean, what were you doing over there? I absolutely can't say he was going to do what. Let the Palm Law Elder know then. One will die. It looks like he went to Peep and was beaten because he was angry, so he made up that Xian Yao Peak had a man. Apart from that Chen, there's no other man in Xian Yao Peak. Today's incident seems to be a misunderstanding. Let's go. It's not that easy to leave. Is it? Elder Dean is a peeping Tom or not? You have to tell us clearly. And Miao Han, you bitch. Elder Dean is covered in bandages, but he can't stop emitting anger from the evidence available quickly. It's not good for you if things get out of hand. You'd better apologize. Elder Dean has to eat his words. I apologize and ask for forgiveness. It seems to be a misunderstanding. I still believe in Elder Dean's character. Take care, third sister. You're too smart. That bastard Ding Wuyan will never come back. But I'm not the one who made the move. It's Xiao Chen who wanted him to suffer, and he actually did it. Ling Shi's heart was in turmoil. She couldn't treat him as a kid anymore. This Wen Wu Hongwu decree is really strong. Ding Wuyan is at least an elder, but he was actually beaten by me easily. Congratulations to the host for completing the transfiguration task and obtaining the reward proficient in puppetry. Experience value plus 15. It's really amazing. I actually had a picture in my head. It was a full set of puppetry knowledge, but our two beautiful sisters are hiding in the doorway, eavesdropping. It's not good for us to be so sneaky, but how can we know Tatsu's secret? Tatsu must have got some technique to change so much overnight. Maybe he's practicing in secret now. There's really something going on in there. Let's rush in and reveal his unknown secrets. So the two of them agreed, then violently opened the door. See, we do not catch your secret this time. I didn't expect to see a machine woman being struggled by the male lead to spread her legs. Xiao Chen did not think you are this kind of person. What needs confine me? Why do this kind of dirty things to dolls? Yi Chen shouted, simply wronged. I have not taken off my trousers, can do what? I am making puppets. You will even puppet art. The production is quite exquisite. These materials are your own find. Although this puppet can move, but the degree of completion is already very scary. My goodness, randomly found materials. Yi Chen suddenly stretched out his palm. Who said she couldn't move? Only to see him put the hands of the energy emanation instantly put into the puppet's chest, and then shouted the slogan, mind empowered. The little puppet actually really moved. Will also be honored to call the master good. He saw the puppet's perfect appearance. Suddenly launched sigh of relief. The two senior sister, this looks okay. It more than okay. Puppetry is the most profound mechanism. No one in the entire Immortal Chance Holy Land understands it. So this puppet art is so awesome. I can't show it off anymore. We should keep a low profile. The gap on the puppet's body is the interface I reserved for upgrading. Genie doesn't have much power yet, so I'll install it later. The third elder sister looked at him doubtfully. When did he get the name? But the little puppet was satisfied with the name. At this time, the system sends out a task. Go to the back of the mountain under the 1,000-year-old pine to complete the sign-in. Third senior sister, can you find a suitable set of clothes? I don't want to be seen as a puppet. For the time being, just follow me as a servant girl. He quickly came to the place where the system prompted him. But this back mountain is so big. Where can he find the 1,000-year pine? Although Qingyi did not have any cultivation, but because of the inheritance of Yi Chen's true essence, the two of them could communicate with each other. But behind them, in the forest, old man Dean was hiding here, holding a deadly weapon in his hand. His look more and more sinister. Could not help a cold snort. Couldn't count on squatting to a long. When Qingyi was on her way to look for her, she was indeed struck by old man Dean's sword, and he shouted angrily for her to stop. Then he put the dagger on her neck. Tell me honestly, are you hiding a man in Xinyao Peak? Qingyi was just a small puppet. She didn't know what this stupid old man was thinking, so she just quietly observed him. Dean Wuyong gritted his teeth in anger and actually did not react. Damn it! Even a small disciple is not afraid of me. Looks like I have to let you taste some bitterness. That man caused me to have nightmares at night. Today you will be the one to pay back the debt. He stretched out his hand and slowly lifted the collar of the green clothes. Show your face, little baby. He thought he could get a glimpse of the real thing, but he didn't expect to see the real thing. The gears on her chest were actually turning. It's not the same as what I saw in the picture of the Spring Palace. What's going on? Yi Chen didn't care what he was thinking. He directly kicked him over, accompanied by an angry shout. Stupid old man, have you seen enough? Stealing up to Xinyao Peak and attacking a female disciple. Din Wuyan, I think you don't want to live anymore. Din Wuyan, however, hung his head low. You finally appeared. It seems that what happened to me was not a hallucination. Last time you had a sneak attack on your back, this time you're done for. The nightmare that has enveloped me, let me tear it apart with my own hands. It's time for you to know my strength. The old man with a mustache in front of him, his face was gloomy and fierce, reached out his hand and summoned an air sword which was surprisingly heavy. Yi Chen looked at his fancy moves. He couldn't help but think that Ding Wuyong was at the 3rd level of Yuanyin cultivation. He couldn't fight with him. He had to outwit him. He watched as Ding Wuyong raised his sword and attacked. His mouth was still vibrant. Let's see how arrogant you still are. He hurriedly sidestepped to avoid it, but he kept on chopping several swords. A hair did not touch him, but now he does not even have a weapon. How to win? Ding Wuyong's face was grim as he gritted his teeth and cursed. You little bastard, calf is still running quite fast, thinking that if he keeps hiding, he can't do anything about you? Yi Chen stretched out a finger to provoke him, thinking that the supreme immortal body, able to absorb heaven and earth aura between breaths, although it can be beaten, but it can be consumed. Seeing this gesture, although Ding Wuyong didn't know what it meant, but there was always a sense of insult, and he rushed up with his sword with a face full of indignation. He held his air sword high in the air and stared at him with glowing eyes. Originally, he wanted to capture you alive for the confrontation, but now it seems that there is no need to do so. Ding Wuyang violently threw out a sword. The guest angrily shouted, "Suffer death." Yi Chen was shocked by this and could only run forward to dodge away. He thought, this is bad. Ding Wuyong moves too fast. He may not be able to avoid this blow. Just when the sword chi was about to cut him, he had a plan. He grabbed a stone on the ground and threw it forward, blocking the blow. Ding Wuyang didn't expect him to be this kind of operation and couldn't understand this move. He just picked up a random stone and used it. This was totally a child's fight, only to see Yi Chen hand and took a lot of stones. He raised his eyebrows, who said that only fancy can be counted as a move. Useful not on the line. Ding Wuyon heard his words instantly more angry. He opened his mouth wide and shouted angrily, "Who do you think is fancy?" and cut out several sword chi too. Yi Chen laughed coldly. He used the stone to gather two balls of fire in his hand, thinking that he was really fooled. "If you fight with me, you'll definitely lose. Your opponent is a perpetual motion machine." Then Yi Chen violently threw out several stones, blocking several sword chi in succession. Ding Wuyon was tired and gasping for breath. His eyes were stern as he thought to himself, "This kid's cultivation is obviously not as good as mine, but why is his true chi so abundant?" Before he could figure out what was going on, he was careless and was caught by Yi Chen. A huge rock slammed into him. Cold sweat kept slipping from the corner of his forehead. His face was ugly as he cursed him, but he still barely managed to dodge the blow, splitting the stone into two pieces. But what he didn't expect was that Yi Chen had guessed his next move and attack him from the gap in the stone he had cleaved apart. Yi Chen smiled in victory and violently extended his palm, ruthlessly striking Ding Wuyon's chest, instantly spitting out a mouthful of blood from the blow. Only this palm knocked Ding Wuyon back down scenes of meters, and finally, with a boom, he ruthlessly smashed into the stone blocks behind him. But he didn't expect that after a while, Yi Chen looked at the scene in front of him and frowned, with some surprise on his face. After the dust dispersed, he found that Ding Wuyon was not even on the stone block, and was only left alone, a deep pit that had been smashed out. Yi Chen did not think that he escaped quite fast, so he told the green clothes behind him to ignore him. "Let's go first." Ding Wuyon covered his chest and kept choking and coughing, and walked with difficulty, not knowing where he was going to escape to. He was bleeding from his 7 orifices, but he couldn't stop cursing. "Yi Chen, wait for me. If I don't clean you up, I won't be called Ding from now on." At this time, a transparent figure was sitting on the top of the mountain. She let out a pleasant laugh. She obviously saw what was happening down below. It was a beautiful woman. She narrowed her eyes and praised in a profound way. "It seems that there is an extraordinary fellow among her disciples and grandchildren." At this time, Yi Chen did not even know. At this time has been noticed him. He was a bit distressed and touched his head. "This deserted mountain is too hard to find." Yi Chen was about to go back to ask when he suddenly raised his head, noticed a tree. It even emitted colorful light. He immediately reached out to hold his chin, eyes glowing, staring at. Strange, this tree actually comes with a haze. It seems to be 1,000 years of pine did not run. The system suddenly prompted the completion of the designated signing to obtain skills. Proficient in the world chess. He was speechless. Actually, this reward, I should have known not to come. Just at this time, the air not far away suddenly emitted a purple light, floating something. He was a bit puzzled to look back. Yi Chen came close to see. Actually is a chessboard. Above the chess game has long been set up, just waiting for him to crack. He stroked his chin, looked at the game, and started to think. This is a very interesting feeling. The system actually also gave me a test question. Soon he placed a black disc. The game was quickly cracked. Black one. At this time, the board actually began to click broken open. Yi Chen did not even think there is this, was suddenly startled a big jump. A woman rushed out from the board. She shouted excitedly, "Finally unlocked. This game is finally unlocked. My father is free." Yi Chen did not expect that a person could come out of it. He looked up with a stupefied face and stared blankly. Qing Yi also arrived at the scene. The woman told him not to be nervous. "Child, you are a disciple of which side of the Immortal Edge of the Holy Land?" Yi Chen obediently replied, "Is a disciple of the Immortal Yaofan?" The name Yachan. The woman was puzzled. Xin Yao Peak actually recruits male disciples. Qing Yi blocked in front of Yi Chen, thinking that this person does not know where he came from. It is better to have some reserve. Only tell him that I belong to the broken record. Senior slightly smiling. "Broken good. Thank your master for me." Yi Chen heard this some doubts, so boldly asked which you are. The female senior slightly smiled, softly opened his mouth to tell him, "I'm the 3rd generation of the Immortal Destiny Sacred Land. When I lost to the chess fairy One Shoji by half a point, I wanted to break the game for my whole life. I have not been able to do so because my obsession is too deep. My soul is trapped here, and I have not been able to be reincarnated for thousands of years. And I finally waited for you to come." The female senior flew close to him, lifted his chin, and gently kissed him on the cheek. Yi Chen's face instantly turned red. I did not expect this woman to have such a status. She held her arms, eyes gently looking at Yi Chen. Yi Chen was simply fascinated by her mind, thinking that the 3rd generation of the sect master, that is not the present sect master's ancestor. The woman is ready to leave to him. Is remembered what like? Reach out and keep fumbling. Want to find to see what rewards to Yi Chen. then threw out a piece of jade bracelet, told him to take this piece of jade pendant. Even the current elders have to listen to you. Chen hastened to salivate to take over. The woman was surrounded by a purple glow and opened her arms to bid them farewell. Goodbye. I can finally be relieved. Chen hurriedly bowed to see her off. The disciple respectfully saw off his great master, but the woman told him, remember, from now on you are my senior disciple and the supreme elder of the Immortal Sanctuary. Chen was lying on the grass, holding this bracelet high in the air, happily thinking, this is to Euro, signing in but also signing out a supreme elder. At this moment, he suddenly heard a movement nearby, and looked at it with his sideways eyes. Then he was quick, grabbed the side of the collar of the green clothes. Tanatan fled. We quickly hide. Someone is coming. Just when the two just hid behind a big tree, Chen looked nervously. Not far away suddenly fluttered and exploded. A huge splash of water suddenly came to people. It was Ding Wuyon brought people over to find a scene. The leading man felt a little strange. Just clearly felt that there was a familiar true chi searching. Ding Wuyon was gritting his teeth in anger. It must be that strange kid. Sect leader, there is definitely a ghost in Zone Yao Peak. And Chen was behind that tree, secretly observing their movements, knowing that the person coming was the Jade Peak sect leader, Jade Xiaojian. He was sensing something. Ding Wuyon had been stirring up trouble. Xianyao Peak's perfunctory congratulatory gift for your birthday came first, and the violation of sheltering a man came after. So it had to be knocked. The Jade Heavenly Master is emanating a heavy pressure, and that real chi just now made me very uneasy. It's actually at the back of Xianyao Peak, so I have to be on the defensive. It looks like it's time to bleed Zone Yao Fan a little bit. Chen heard this from behind the tree. His face instantly turned ugly. This is bad. Yu Lingxi kept looking at the mirror, observing her own figure, and couldn't help but think, I'm not too small here. Right. Just at this moment, Chen suddenly rushed back to Xianyao Peak, violently pushed open her window, gasping for breath and shouting loudly for its senior sister. Where is my mother? Yu Lingxi was a little upset when she heard this. Rude. Didn't know to knock? Come in. See how sister can clean you up. But Chen's face was ugly, ignoring his fourth senior sister's words, anxiously saying that time is running out. The Jade Peak may want to play a dirty game. And Miaohan spoke out at this time, told him that the master was indeed called by the sect leader to the Jade Peak, said that there is something important. Is this a trap? When Chen heard this, he hurriedly ran out. The two senior sisters wanted to stop him. Your identity can't be exposed yet, not to mention the hard Jade Peak. But Chen smiled and gave them both an okay gesture, indicating that he had no problem. Let them rest assured, blah. No one dares to touch me. Yu Lingxi puzzled to ask what is this gesture, and Miaohan frowned said not quite no, but look at the shape seems to be this. And Miaohan and Yu Lingxi could not help but blush, cover their mouths and snicker. Coincidentally thought, this kid is to dirty it. And at this time inside the Jade Peak, someone had already been waiting here. Someone at the back informed the immortal Yao Sacred Mother had arrived, and Ding Wuyan smiled grimly when he heard this. Yu Qingdao walked over, bowed her head and clenched her fists and bowed respectfully to the front. See you, sect master. Jade Heavenly Kingdom closed his eyes and answered, since all the people are here, let's start now. Yu Qingdao stood still for a while and couldn't help but ask, Master, where's my seat? Ding Wuyan on the stage smiled wryly when he heard this. He stretched out his hand with a winning smile and pointed at Yu Qingdao with a dark and gloomy face. Sinner Yu Qingdao, you still have the face to ask for a seat. Today's gathering of the Four Peaks is to decide on the punishment for your Zone Yao Peak. Yu Qingdao's face sank when she heard this. What sin did I commit at Zone Yao Peak? Ding Wuyon slowly walked down the steps, counting the charges that had been put on them. Zone Yaofeng had no shame, hiding man and leering at the clan. They also have no respect for the rules, beat up the elders, and even deviated from the rules by dealing perfunctorily with the sect leader's birthday, without any sense of reverence. Yu Qingdao frowned. Unexpectedly he was still entangled in this matter, and asked him why he appeared in her Xianyao Peak female disciple's practice room. Ding Wuyan said, I don't know. I clearly saw a man sneaking around, and when I went to arrest him, he was beaten up by you guys. I didn't think that he would make a rake. Yu Qingdao's face was gloomy. I didn't think that Ding Wuyan would actually dare to turn his face away from the truth. At this time, Tianqi Peak Master coughed twice. I have to say that what you did this time is really too much. You have to seriously make amends. God's Court Peak Master concurred. simply lawless. In his opinion, Xin Yao Peak handed over that man another 50,000 taels of fine silver, plus 10 quintals of top-ranking herbs as an indemnity. These people are clearly oppressing Xin Yao Peak, and at this moment, Jade Sky is really threatening her. It seems that Xin Yao Peak wants to separate from Immortal Chance Holy Land. When Qing Dao heard this, she could only bow her head and say she didn't dare, and Ding Wuyon even came over and patted her shoulder, telling her to leave the Immortal Destiny Sacred Grounds tree. Immortal Yao Peak is nothing. If you really think you can't take it out, I can help you plead for you to be willing to accompany me, Ding Wuyan said shamelessly. At this time, Yi Chen rushed into the house. His face was fierce, ruthlessly gave Ding Wuyon a kick, cursing, compensation for your grandfather's leg. Afterwards, he grabbed Ding Wuyon's hair, causing him to scream, which made him break out in a cold sweat. Yi Chen, angry feast after feast, ruthlessly smashed in Ding Wuyon's head. This old man is too damned. After a long time, Yi Chen finally stopped, and Ding Wuyon had been beaten to a bruised and swollen face, and could not see the original appearance of it. Yi Chen's hands were stained with blood. I don't know whether it was his own or Ding Wuyon's, and finally gave him a hard kick in the abdomen. He looked at the people behind him with a sharp look in his eyes, his body coldly exuding a black aura. I heard that you guys are looking for me. Grandpa is here. Hearing him say that, Ding Wuyon quickly climbed up and pointed at him, as if he were a small straw man who could not be killed. That's him. That's the kid. Yi Qingdao was worried behind them. Chun'er was too bold. If he showed up like this, wouldn't he be in their hands? Jade Sky real person see this situation. More aggressive. Xin Yao Peak really hide a man. Senior sister, this cannot blame me for ruthless. Ding Wuyon hiding behind, shouting at the disciples outside the door. What are you waiting for? Quickly come in to arrest her. Between the influx of 6 or 7 people, Yi Chen is not the slightest bit of panic. When the words fell, he used his true chi, gently stepped on the ground, and said, "Give me back," and instantly all the people around him tumbled and fell. Yi Qingdao was also shocked by this true chi, thinking how is it possible that Chen's cultivation has actually reached the early stage of the transformation spirit stage. Tianchi Peak Master looked at this scene, his mouth wide open in shock. At such a young age, he actually already had this kind of cultivation. At this time, the Jade Heavenly King violently crushed the table. Seeing this scene, he finally couldn't bear it any longer. The hand gathered up a ball of true chi, the body agile rushed out, gritted teeth ferocious, that also do not want to spread wild in the Jade Peak. Yi Qingdao didn't expect him to attack, shouting for mercy, worried that his cultivation level was in the middle stage of the cave void stage. When Chun'er fought with him, he was bound to be in a bad way. This is bad, only to see the Jade Heavenly Mountain Master strike a tiger's feast, and Yi Chen was still standing in the same place. He didn't mean to dodge, but reached out and took out a bracelet. The Jade Heavenly Master's eyes widened when he saw this bracelet. He stopped violently. Then he looked carefully. It was a green bangle, but it wasn't ordinary. This was a token of the Master Ancestor. Ding Wuyon couldn't help but open his mouth wide and shouted with horror on his face. And at this time, Yi Chen violently threw out a slap, ruthlessly hitting the Jade Heavenly Master. His face sullen, his voice majestic. Dare to be disrespectful to the Supreme Elder. Deserve to be hit? Tai Chi Peak Master was scared to cold sweat. Unbelievable voice. The Supreme Elder. Ding Wuyon also do not believe. With the Master Ancestor of the same generation of elders have been feathering. How can it come up again? So young must be a liar. And at this time the bracelet within the sun suddenly floated out. The remnants of the female seniors. Her voice is majestic. Qing Liuzi, you are very crazy. Even my credentials are not recognized. These people see. Hastily kneel down and kowtow. Pay respects to the Master Ancestor. The female elder's voice was gloomy. Don't think I don't know. You guys did those dirty things. The Immortal Fate Holy Land was spoiled by you into a kind of. From now on, the Supreme Elder is the supervising elder. Any major events have to report to him. Listen to his arrangements. Whoever is not convinced, I will take him away. A few people were scared and couldn't stop trembling, and Yi Chen saw someone backing up, a face of ridicule. I violated the rules. They are planning to enforce the door rules. It scare them, but living in Xin Yao Peak does have its flaws. I'd better live in a different place. Why don't I just move in with Yu Zhao and Jay? And at this time, one person wanted to sneak out while no one was paying attention to him, but it didn't expect that just when it took a step, he was called by Yi Chen's scattered voice, scaring him. Elder Dane, where do you want to go? Ding Wuyon hurriedly turned around in a panic and begged Yi Chen for forgiveness. Supreme Elder rest his anger. It is the latecomer who has no eyes to disturb you. Yi Chen smiled slightly and told him not to be nervous. I'm a very easygoing person, and I can let bygones be bygones. He said, and his hand violently threw out an item, ruthlessly smashed in his head. In the future, dare to hit the idea of Xin Yao Peak. Just wait to be skinned and cramped. At this time, the system suddenly prompted, congratulations to the host to complete the hidden mission. Arrived at the Jade Peak Hall to obtain the reward, the very good Chuan sword Shui Ying. Yi Qingdao took him back to the main hall of Xinyao Peak, and couldn't help but ask what chance he encountered, and how the Master Ancestor's token was in your hand. Yi Chen spoke a word and could not explain. Anyway, the other 3 peaks no longer dare to bully us. Hard work for us on Yao Peak to hold up the facade. In the gap between the 2 conversations, suddenly Yu Lingxi ran in, face uply shouting, Master Accident! Our disciples encountered an ambush. Yi Qingdao's face instantly turned ugly. She hurriedly asked worriedly, how is Qingxue? Is she back? Hearing this, Yu Lingxi couldn't help but cry out, the second sister in order to cover the retreat of the others, alone to block the enemy. Now life and death is unknown. Yi Qingdao's face is even more ugly. I did not think it was Qingxue stayed behind to fend off the enemy. Yu Lingxi told her that the master of the third sister has gone to look for her. So Yi Qingdao quickly asked where they were ambushed. Yu Lingxi pointed behind her, 80 miles to the southwest. There is Sea Maple Mountain. After hearing these words, Yi Chen violently rushed out shouting, I also go to help Yi Qingdao face serious. Since the other party knows our route, they must have made complete preparations. It can't be the work of a small thief. Let's go see the sect leader. At this time, the Maple Mountain, and Miao Han grabbed Qingzu's clothes, is taking her to escape quickly, anxious shouting, hold on second sister. At this time, the people behind, eyes will be chased up, the eyes of the evil look at them. The little girl, stay with the brother to play it. At this time, a person suddenly appeared, violently dispersed them. A few people have been shocked, do not know why, and Miao Han was happy to turn her head to look. Finally relieved. Great, it's Xiao Chen. And Yi Chen was floating in the air at this time, using the flood Xuanwu technique Shifa, and Sato and Miao Han on the other side. You quickly take the second senior sister back. And Miao Han looked up at him, and when she saw him say that, she turned around and flew away with Qingzu, reminding him to be careful. She also told Yi Chen that Qingxue had been poisoned, and she had to go back as soon as possible to find a way to cure her. So she had to leave first, and at this time, Qingxue forcefully opened her eyes. Her voice was weak. The treasures that we brought back from the secret realm must be taken back. And Miao Han heard that. What time is it? First saved life is important. Yi Chen stood behind them and said, they snatched away the things I must take back with interest. Just after saying that, he attacked them fiercely. Where are the pursuers? The pursuers could not have imagined that he would attack so suddenly. A man pointed at Yi Chen, couldn't help but curse, single-handedly dared to come to the rescue. If you know what's good for you, just get out of the way, or I will take you out of the fire. The true chi around Yi Chen kept surging towards him. The disciples of the Immortal Chance Holy Land also dared to rob. You group of thieves are afraid that you don't know how to write the word death. This group of robbers laughed loudly. I robbed the Immortal Fate Holy Land. Really think you are a few hundred years ago. The great sects. It seems that they are not ordinary thieves. The treasure should have been taken back by their accomplices. Want to chase back to have someone to lead the way? This group of thieves with a big knife, constantly shouting and rushing towards him, threatening to cut him to death. Looking at the weapon in the hands of one of them, Yi Chen thought to himself, no wonder he dared to be so arrogant when he was only at the Yuan stage. He looked at it with a pensive face. The original sword are coated with poison. No matter what you are a master, as long as close to the body will be dead. This person raised high stained with poison knife too. Our unique poison, ghostly sorrow, can penetrate into the bloodstream if it cuts through the skin. Within a day it will attack the heart, and you'll die for sure. Yi Chen was not the least bit afraid. He reached out and conjured up a sharp blade, and smiled with a relaxed demeanor. It's just the right time to try out this new weapon of mine, so we thought it would be better to try the effect of a random chop first. Then the sharp blade in his hand swung out. But I did not expect this blade, but like fire, instantly engulfed the group of thieves. They continued to scream in pain, and the sight of the leader of the thieves. See, this blade is about to split to their own body. He frowned in place with scared face full of cold sweat. Only a moment in front of him, he was shocked and shouted, Mother! The blade with the flames, rubbing the top of his head cut over. Yi Chen gently waved. The sword even reached 8,000 meters away. Really unusual. He looked down and measured the sword. He thought to himself, this sword actually has a true chi multiplying effect. My cultivation at the early stage of the transformation spirit stage can actually produce the output of the top stage of the transformation spirit stage. I saw the leader of the thieves not far away, howling and running to the distance, his mouth also constantly shouting, "Help!" I did not expect actually this was scared away. He pulled up the corner of his mouth and smiled. "Then I would like to thank you to lead the way." And not far away from a few people do not know has been exposed. They are flying with swords in the air. One of them complimented the elder's wisdom. Without spending a single soldier, can be the treasures of the immortal edge of the Holy Land for themselves. I'm really worthy of my snow equals sex Y star. The bald old man held his beard and smiled. Just a little trick. At this time, the leader of the thieves to this direction. The royal sword flew over. My old man some surprise. Not let him to catch the woman who escaped. Mediterranean Uncle Payne, we seek and catch. This time came at least is. The top of the spirit stage of cultivation of the guy. A sword to destroy a downsing of our disciples. Heard this bald elder shocked. Is it Xinyao Peak Holy Land? The four peaks of the Lord arrived. Mediterranean busy said no. That kid is only 17 or 18 years old. It is impossible to be the peak master. Bald elder heard this and thought he was talking nonsense. It must be that you are too big to be killed by that little girl and lost your brother. So you made up this lie to justify yourself. Mediterranean looked aggrieved. In good conscience, if I have a lie, I will be struck by thunder. I didn't expect that a thunderbolt would flash in the sky at this time. Seeing this, the bald elder held his sword to Mediterranean's neck. God can't even tolerate your nonsense. Mediterranean really felt very wronged. And at that moment, the henchman on the side, a drop of cold sweat slipped from his cheeks, his hand trembling and pointing to a place. The sound was made by that person, only to see that it was Chen who was covered in gold and white, with several thunderbolts behind him, standing high in the air. He used the flood Wen Wu decree thunder method. Bald elder face difficult to see, actually able to draw out the heaven and earth phenomenon. Aside the Mediterranean Sea, the situation hurriedly shouted that is him. Actually can't steal chase here. You have to be careful. Bald elder hit him hard. Hate iron is not steel. It is not you to lead people here. His face is gloomy. Arrange the people underneath. I go to explore the reality. You grasp the time to set up the formation, and then listen to the signal of my action. So the bald elder greeted the front, shouted in the following. Snow Eagle Sect, Taoist elder, fearless. May I ask why your excellency is blocking us? Chen's voice was ice cold. True Chi constantly surrounded him, coldly spit out for big words, for heaven to do the right thing. Fearless elder gritted his teeth when he heard this. What a big mouth. Do you know that after this Sanchuan River is where my Snow Eagle Sex mountain gate is? With just one person and one sword, you still dare to provoke us. But before he could finish his sentence, Chen impatiently threw out a sword chi. I didn't expect this sword energy to cut off the mountain road and the river with a shocking power, only to hear Chen's cold. One person and one sword is enough to break the river. Fearless elder saw that the negotiation broke down and reached out to read out a talisman. Then he would not blame him for being ruthless, shouting that the Vulcan formation was activated. I did not expect. Chen condescendingly looked at him. The tone of voice lazily asked, "Are you calling them?" Thinking that long before he was unaware of the situation, his men behind him have been injured. He was finally shocked and wide-eyed. When he came back to his senses, he thought to himself, this person deliberately lured him closer and delayed the time, so he used the lightning method to sneak up on them. At this moment, Chen took advantage of his unguarded position and reached out to his shoulder and arm, stabbing a small knife, instantly breathing out the blood flowers. He looked at his arm in shock, wide-eyed horror, shouting, "What is it?" Chen kindly told him, "This is what I picked up from your disciples. This is smeared with ghostly sorrow." Right. Hearing this, Fearless elder took out a bottle of antidote from his pocket and gritted his teeth and scolded him. "You really don't talk about martial virtues." Unexpectedly at this moment, Chen violently punched him away. The antidote instantly detached from the palm of his hand and kept rotating in the air. Finally, Chen reached out and held the antidote and looked up to thank him happily. "I can take it back to my sister to cure her poison." Fearless elder was infuriated, biting his lower lip, thinking that this kid was so young. Why did he have so many hearts and minds? Fearless elder's eyes were dark and heavy, and he quickly threw an antidote into his mouth. Did he think that he was very smart? Walking in the zone who to play smart is useless. Chen watched his action, did not feel the slightest surprise, worthy of being an old driver with 2 bottles of antidote with him. After the antidote came into play, Elder Fearless attacked. This kid is too cunning, but the good thing is that his cultivation is above him. As long as he dares to sword fight with me, it's a sure thing. Hearing this, Chen didn't balk at all, holding the hilt of his sword and pointing it straight at Elder Fearless. He also gathered his true chi and answered, "Come." Fearless Elder saw him actually really in his own against. Heart is very happy. This kid has been tricked. The two against each other issued a huge roaring sound. He laughed loudly and said, I'm at the stage of emptiness, but you're at the stage of God realization. So you're afraid that your brain is not squeezed by the door. Both of them are not giving in, but Elder Fearless is saying, you only have 30% of your power left now, but I still have 50%. His eyes were sharp, and he was chattering. Now you can't even disengage if you want to. Once you withdraw your power, you will be pierced by the sword chi. All you can do is to walk towards death. Chen's forehead corner dripped a drop of cold sweat. He clenched his teeth, thinking is this his limit? Or forget it. They still change the breath blah, followed by the sword chi instantly like the sea like surging, pouncing on Fearless Elders. Fearless Elder could not help but stare at the situation. Pupils constantly shrinking, voice trembling asked, may I ask what you have just done? It was Chen who had long ignored his words. His eyes glowed lightly uttering the words, you guess, and then holding the hilt of the sword pressed towards him. Instantly the sword energy on his body clothing, all torn split open. Fearless Elders constantly open his mouth to emit miserable screams, being beaten black and blue. There were no clothes on his body. He held that antidote high above his head and begged for forgiveness. The treasures were all in this storage ring. Afterwards, Chen stared at him condescendingly. After half a day's hard work, he only got back what originally belonged to him. Are you satisfied? Fearless Elder was scared, trembling and shaking, has been kowtowing on the ground. Took out a thing too. This is the blue water beads. Have harnessed the water to drive the wave of its effect. Chen then satisfied to take. Go back to your boss to pass a message. Dare to hit the idea of the immortal edge of the Holy Land. Directly demolition of the mountain gate. Fearless Elder was crying uncontrollably. Even when Chen flew away, he was still kowtowing and shouting to send off the good men. At this time, inside the house of Xinyao Peak, Qingxue still closed her eyes tightly, her eyebrows slightly wrinkled, as if her complexion is still very uncomfortable. A room full of people gathered around her bedside. Yu Lingxi is carefully taking her pulse. Yi Qingdao worriedly asked, how is Qingshue's condition? Yu Lingxi's face is ugly. This poison is the world's strange poison. Although I am well versed in medicine, but I cannot formulate an antidote. I am afraid that it will not last tonight. When Miaohan heard this, she instantly rushed out in anger. She wanted to fight with the Snow Eagle sect's animals. Yi Qingdance was anxious to call her back. Just as Miaohan was about to rush out of the doorway, she head-on collided into a person. This collision confused her and she couldn't help but cry out in pain. Chen also did not have time to stabilize his body and mind. The two violently fell to the ground in a state of disarray, puzzled and asked where the gas was going to go. Two people could not easily stand up. Chen happy to take out a bottle of antidote, and then Miaohan explained the medicine brought back quickly to the third sister to serve. And Miaohan heard this, instantly happy. Chen also told her, not only the antidote, we were robbed of the treasures are all back. Having brought back so much good news at once, and Miaohan happily rushed into his arms, hugged him and praised him. You are really great. Chen was hugged by her second sister, soft jade in her arms, and instantly said with a happy heart, you are also great. Inside the Snow Eagle sect, someone is loudly complaining. The situation is like this. The door master, that boy is too evil. I really did not talk nonsense. Sect master sitting in a high position tone of authority. That person revealed the secret route, but did not say that there is this figure, resulting in our losses so heavy. Inside the main hall of Xinyao Peak, Yi Qingdao sighed. Qingdao's sword cultivation is definitely the best, otherwise she wouldn't have been allowed to lead the team to the secret realm. And Miaohan a talk about the head teacher guest jumping feet. Something happened even if Art did not put. They fell all run back. Simply do not care about the light dance dead or alive. Looking at Chen, tone of voice grimly speaking. Now they heard that you snatched all the treasures back. Surely they will have the cheek to ask for it. Chen thought they should not be so thick-skinned. He thought a little early. As a matter of fact, the next second, there are people to inform the sect leader to the Jade Heavenly Realist violently pushed open the door and praised Chen loudly without stinting. You killed the Snow Eagle sect. It's too much of a relief. Hearing this, Chen's face was speechless. You are quite well informed. Jade Heavenly Realist respectfully went forward to salute. Moralistic said thanks to you. Chen did not eat his set, just a hand up, but the second disciple Murong Qingxue, in order to cover the retreat of the disciples of all peaks. To cover the retreat of the disciples of the peaks, Murong Qingxue was seriously injured in the fight with the enemy. As the head teacher, how should you be? Jade Sky real person heard this instantly weak. The disciple came in a hurry. In a couple of days, I will definitely send someone to send a good tonic. Chen did not appreciate. Not in a couple of days. I see this jade pendant is not quite suitable for you. And Miao Han immediately said with glowing eyes, this jade pendant is the treasure of the sect leader. It can drive away poisonous miasma and gather chi to help God's miraculous effect. It's very beneficial to monks. If the sect leader can give this kind of treasure to them, it will surely show the praise and encouragement to those who are brave enough to kill the enemy. Chen aside is very recognized. Look at Jade Heaven Real, a look of meek pain. Export Majesty asked, you think my proposal is not appropriate? Jade Sky Real person dare not mess with him. Quickly bent down and bowed his head to offer to Chen Dao this 7-man jade pendant. It is necessary to thank you for the teacher sister for it. Chen saw the situation, stretched his waist and began to drive him. Condolences over. You hurry down the mountain. Hereafter all our female disciples spread out to damage your reputation. But the Jade Heavenly Kingdom is a little reluctant, peeking at his hands, wanting to give back the exotic herbs collected by the disciples of the peaks who traveled to the secret realm. This old bastard really is running to the secret realm of things. Chen Dao also want to hide cannot be avoided. Can't get a jade pendant is also an unexpected joy. When the two of them thought that the things would definitely be taken by him, Chen voiced out in doubt. The things were taken by the people of the Snow Eagle sect. You have to go to them. Jade Heavenly Reality did not expect to hear such words, and quickly opened his mouth, was snatched away, and later was not snatched back by you again. So Chen reached out and took out the storage ring, playing rogue with him. Your things are still in their hands. Do not believe you go to the Snow Eagle sect to ask it. Fearless elder spat out blood, cursing how outrageous it was. He also threw the house into a mess, relying on his seniority. Bullying to my head. This tone of voice I cannot swallow no matter what. Dean Weon egged him on. This uncle is of unknown origin. If we don't solve this quickly, I'm afraid that the group of people from Xianyao Peak will threaten your position. Hearing this, Jade Jiao Jian panted and turned his head, asking Dean Wuyan what he had in mind. Dean Wuyong's face was grim, since it suddenly popped up. Think of a way to make him suddenly disappear. As long as you agree, disciple will immediately go and do it. I guarantee that within 3 days, I will let his head fall to the ground. Hearing this, the Jade Heavenly Realist's face was sinister. After this is accomplished, I will have a heavy reward for you. Chen and Qing Yi were walking in the corridor. Chen asked if there was any place he wanted to play. Qing Yi only wanted to follow his master. Wherever you go, wherever Qing Yi goes. Chen felt that staying in Xianyao Peak like this was too boring. He had to find some fun before he could do so. Indeed, the system suddenly released a task. Go to Tianqi Peak to complete the chicken. Chen was puzzled. Where is the dragon pool? Turning the eyes of the sky slightly dark, Chen took Qingyi Imperial sword flying in the air. Chen asked the person behind the cover of the eyes, are you afraid of heights? Qingyi. Chen mouth said sorry. I did not do a good job. Lest you have such a congenital deficiency. But face but smiled and thought, only strange. If you're not afraid of heights, why would you hug me so tightly? And Chen suddenly put away his unorthodox demeanor. His eyes keenly looked forward. He took Qingyi and flew swiftly with his sword until he reached the ground. And Qingyi shouted out in fear to his master. It was actually a few disciples of Tianqi Peak. One of them, a red-haired man, looked at the distance and felt strange. He clearly saw a silhouette flying through the air. His companions thought that he was blind and urged him to go back to drink. Chen was hiding among the bushes with Qingyi. It would be troublesome for them to discover him, so they couldn't fly with their swords. So the two of them walked to the fallen dragon pool. Chen looked up and finally arrived, still a little worried that there shouldn't be anyone hanging around anymore. And some doubt touched his head. Felt very strange. Their own people have arrived. Why there is no prompt to complete the task? Is it necessary to go into the water? A sight of the green clothes pointing not far away asked, Master, are you looking for that? Chen to the shore on the stone clothing. Instantly wide-eyed, he was startled. His face panicked, thinking this is bad. Someone is here. So cooling Qingyi is ready to escape. Obviously it was too late. The person in the pool came out of the water, alert, and shouted, What kind of person? Chen heard this voice. He was flabbergasted. He didn't expect it to be an acquaintance, and excitedly shouted out a loud second senior sister. Murong Qingxue wrapped in a bathrobe, touched her slightly wet hair, also a little puzzled. Did not expect to run into Xiao Chen here. After Murong Qingxue put on her clothes, Chen came up and asked if the poison was solved. How not to rest properly, ran to this wilderness to take a bath. Murong Qingxue told him that the poison has been almost solved, but she was also hit by the Snow Eagle sect elder's flame palm, and the fire poison in her body was rampant. The only way to heal his wounds was the extremely cold ice water of the falling dragon pool and asked Chen why he came here in the middle of the night. Chen frowned and didn't know how to explain. Before he thought of a good excuse, Murong Qingxue came over to flirt with him. Could it be that he followed him here and wanted to peep at your second elder sister's bath? Chen quickly waved his hand. Misunderstood. I came to find treasure. Murong Qingxue heard this. Did not think that there are actually treasures here, but Chen just want to find a reason to put off. Want the second sister fooled away. Tell him that second sister heard the sect master said, below the hidden secret treasure of the sect. But Murong Qingxue told him that the dragon pool is so deep that the further down it goes, the rougher the currents are, and even those who are good at water can't get out. Even she only dared to stay about 3 meters underwater. So she seriously told Chen to go back with me. This is no place for you to play. But Chen was reluctant. Just let me try. And at this time, not far away, someone heard the pool side of the movement. Is planning to come over to check. When the disciples of Tianqi Peak rushed here, they were all puzzled. They looked around and felt a bit strange. They clearly heard a sound over here, so they decided to go over and take a look. Tianqi Peak disciples walked to the edge of the pool of water. Looking at the bottom of the pool of water, the two puzzled to discuss. There is no underwater. The sky is too dark to see too clearly. At this moment, there were 3 people hiding underwater. They held their breath. It was Chen, Qing Yi, and Murong Qingxue. At this critical moment, suddenly the current under the spring was so fast that it swept over Murong Qingxue's calves. She instantly could not stabilize her body, was brought down by the water. The situation was very dangerous. Chen also found this a serious expression of shock thought. This is bad. In order to avoid the to-dive depth, more than 3 meters, the elder sister is in danger. Murong Qingxue expression of horror open mouth. The pool water swept, dragged downward, apparently has been in critical condition. She continued to sink to the bottom of the pool. The pain of reaching out upwards. Chen saw this, hurriedly dived down, thinking my second sister I'm coming. Murong Qingxue has long been delirious. Senseless, was swirled in the center of the whirlpool. When Chen finally grabbed her arm, Qing Yi also rushed over. In the too tightly tugging Murong Qingxue want to go up, but the bottom of the pool issued a loud noise. Both faced ugly, only to see a huge monster lurking at the bottom of the pool. Its eyes were long below, teeth were sharp, and it had thousands of tentacles, which were densely distributed. Several people's expression instantly ugly up. This is the situation is bad. Is not a dark current, but the bottom of the hidden monster jellyfish. What can we do now? They are not good at water warfare at all. Although Qing Yi is not affected underwater, but she does not have any combat power yet. Deadlock At this moment of danger, he suddenly flashed something in his mind, remembering the water-avoiding pearl, wondering if it could come in handy, but he has not yet tested. Facing the huge demonic beast jellyfish, I do not know whether there is a chance of victory, but there is no other way. Can only try. So he reached out and handed the water-avoiding bead to Qing Yi, although his heart was very apprehensive. But now in this situation, he could only ask Qing Yi to do it. Qing Yi received the water avoidance pearl and began to use it. The aqua pearl instantly emitted a huge light. These rays of light enveloped Qing Yi's body, constantly emitting buzzing sounds. Countless channels of true chi surging towards Qing Yi. Such a big commotion, the shore has long been unable to hide. The surface of the pool instantly spewed out a huge column of water. Tianqi Peak disciples have been shouting, and deep in the bottom of the pool demonic beast jellyfish opened its bloody mouth. Inside even its several rows of sharp teeth. Chen thought, this is bad. This thing is going to swallow us all. I did not expect it to eat people. Qing Yi violently attacked the jellyfish at this time, instantly cut off a few of its tentacles. The jellyfish was enraged by her, and stretched out several tentacles to attack her. Chen watched the battle from the sidelines, and thought to himself that he could really fight with water. Qing Yi slightly lowered her head, making it impossible to see her face. Then she crossed her arms again, and burst out a huge amount of true chi from her body, fiercely and sharply to the jellyfish tentacles, cut down scenes of real chi too. Wherever she went, all the jellyfish stumps and broken arms. The sales jellyfish was scared to death by her ferocious fighting style. Her face was filled with cold sweat, looking at her own tentacles that were cut off. Chen thought to herself, how is this thing so advanced, underwater and still have a cold sweat? And at this time Qing Yi has also almost finished the battle. He quickly weaved in and out of the water, just using his hand blades. At this time the side of the Chen hastily reached out to grasp Murong Qingxue. This can be bad. In the underwater time is too long. The second sister has already passed out. There is no other way. Have to be offended? He violently stretched out his head, mouth to mouth, open mouth. Murong Qingxue to the gas transition. Want to let her awake. At this time, the bottom of the pool suddenly rolled up a huge whirlpool. Yi Chen shocked. Chen either begging for compliments, "Master, I'm awesome," or not, "so that you can breathe." Yi Chen really did not expect, not that this pool of water is deep and bottomless. He shouted hopelessly, "I really think you are." Genie, the words have not yet fallen. They were forced to fall down to the bottom of the pool violently. Because of the loss of water, they fell hard on the ground. Murong Qingxue pressed on his body. Yi Chen painfully let out a miserable scream too, but did not expect Qing Yi and head on the ground. Rushed, his crotch smashed over. Instantly painful eyeballs are protruding now. Let out a more miserable screams. Qing Yi quickly got up, waved his hand at his master, apologized all the time. Yi Chen snot and tears flowed all over his face, still saying strongly, "I'm fine." After he slowed down, he turned his head and began to observe. Then Yi Chen was surprised to find that there was actually a hole here. He surveyed the cave. It looked like an artificial excavation. In the end, what kind of person would dig a hole here? But the system has not yet prompted. The people on the shore also happened to see the hole appearing in the pool at this time, and intended to come down to check it out. Yi Chen's face was unsightly. "Oh no, here comes another person." So he hurriedly turned his head, commanded Qing Yi to quickly let the pool water return to its original state. Qing Yi quickly responded. The pool water instantly returned to calm. Tianqi Peak disciples on the shore, the face of all doubtful. The water hole and disappeared. Scared to think cannot be a ghost, right? So the elder of Tianqi Peak started to arrange for the disciples underneath to transfer some people over to keep an eye on this place. And the disciples hurriedly saluted and answered. Elder of Tianqi Feng solemnly said to them, "No matter what it is, from underwater to take down for me." And at this time the bottom of the pool, several people has long been into the artificial cutout of the cave. Dripping water want to go towards the rock side. Yi Chen, holding Murong Qingxue in his arms, just walked to the edge of the rock, turned his head and saw, standing here in the night pearl. He felt a little confused. He didn't know what place it was, but it didn't expect the system to prompt him to discover the hidden sword graveyard. Congratulations on getting the reward. 10,000 swords returning to the scholarship. He placed Murong Qingxue safely on the shore. After a while, Murong Qingxue frowned and rubbed her eyes to wake up. She sat her day up and looked around suspiciously, asking, "What is this place?" Her whole body's clothes were soaked and tightly attached to her body. Yi Chen hastily turned his head away, could not bear to look at. He blushed and said he did not know. Aside, Murong Qingxue did not know what to notice. Instantly, sullen face stood up and rushed out to the side. Yi Chen was somewhat unknown, so he did not know what was going on. Murong Qingxue quickly arrived at the sword mound, told him that he had heard before, somewhere in the Immortal Chance Holy Land, there is a hidden grave mound of the first predecessors of this door. Their cultivation is extraordinary. One person a sword reigns supreme. Because the disciple is considered talentless, no one can inherit the mantle. So buried in a hidden place together, after so many years, I don't know if there is anyone who can take over the sword of the predecessors. Murong Qingxue surveyed the sword mound in front of her. One of the swords was emitting a buzzing sound, and its body was emitting a transparent light. So it must be very extraordinary, but I did not expect all the blades of the sword in succession. All issued a buzzing sound. Murong Qingxue stood frowning in place. I do not know what is wrong. At this time, Yi Chen suddenly reached out and pulled out his sword, blocking Murong Qingxue's body, telling him to be careful. This sword mound must have an anti-intrusion spell formation. This is dangerous. These swords rushed straight at them and cut over. This is treating us as enemies. Yi Chen's face was serious. His expression was dark and gloomy. He shouted to Qing Yi, telling him to hide behind himself. He would block this attack. Tens of thousands of swords brushed in unison, hacked towards them with a thunderous momentum. Simply let a person cannot defend themselves. At this time, Yi Chen's hand formed a protective shield, blocking the blades that were coming from all directions. The two of them were struggling to resist, but there was still a leakage. One of the swords she ruthlessly entered Murong Qingxue, cutting into her back. Yi Chen thought with a serious look on his face. The second sister's injury is not yet healed. If this goes on, sooner or later, something will happen. He has to think of a solution, so he raised the sword blade in his hand and read out the spell in a loud voice. Power through the rainbow, the heart of the rainbow, the thoughts and the spirit of the sword. Instantly all the true chi surged in like a sword. Before he could swing this sharp blade out, thousands of them, suddenly the blade came to a halt. He stretched out his two fingers to gather his true chi. He couldn't help but think to himself that all the swords were returned to the same place. Surely this is the way to use it. Yi Chen rushed to the sword mound in front of him and shouted, "Seniors, your magic weapons will be accepted by the seniors." Murong Qingxue looked at the scene. It was unbelievable. These thousands of sword blades emitted a golden light, constantly hovering in the air, gradually gathered in one place. Chen looked up and watched. Afterwards, he stretched out his hand again and said one word in a faint voice. Tens of thousands of sword blades were all in his pocket. Murong Qingxue looked at this scene. It was unbelievable, thinking that Xiao Chen had collected all the swords. How did it do it? Chen raised his arm and showed his sleeve wrist, which was constantly glowing, explaining that he had simply returned them to their positions. Murong Qingxue looked at him and said happily, "It seems that you have been recognized by your forefathers. They are willing to give you their swords in life." So Chen respectfully bowed his head, clenched his fists, and gave them a salute. His voice was serious and earnest as he said, "Late generation Chen, I am grateful for your love. He will live up to the trust, grow the Immortal Ledge Sanctuary, to restore the glory of the past." Did not expect like a manifestation of the spirit of the cave, appeared a number of ethereal light. Murong Qingxue looked at this scene, some trembling with fear. "Let's hurry up. Do not disturb the seniors' quiet." Chen does not demolish her fear of ghosts immediately after leading them. "Let's go first. See if there is an exit this way. We can't go back the same way. There will be an ambush outside for sure." Murong Qingxue couldn't help but ask, "What happened to you during this period of time? The growth was so fast." Chen didn't know how to answer her. He led Dao to walk in front of him. Suddenly there was no road in front of him. He was a bit puzzled. This is the end of the road. And then low through these caverns, speaking to the two behind him, "From here should be able to climb up." Soon the forest in the distance. Do not know which one of the stones suddenly moved. Chen set aside this large stone from the hole drilled out. As expected, there is a culvert. Climbed out and looked towards the near future. Tianqi Peak disciples are really guarding the edge of the pool. And again a guest behind Murong Qingxue reminded him to go quickly. If he was found, he would be in trouble. So Chen turned back to answer and reminded her that your sword is more seriously damaged. Or use mine, I'll bring Qingyi to follow you. And not far from the jungle, another crowd gathered. The leader commanded from the back of the mountain to touch up. Group A to steal the treasure. Group B will burn the house. Group C will follow me to rob the girl. Is it all clear? So it's Elder Fearless. It seems to be premeditated. And this time suddenly under the people pointing to not far away, found the movement. So let Fearless Elders look at it. Fearless Elder found that this is Immortal Ledge Holy Land. Escaped the chick. At this time is flying in the air with a sword. Apparently did not find them. Murong Qingxue didn't know that she was being watched. She was still jealous and thought, if there was no Qingyi, Xiao Chen would be flying a sword with me. Just when she was oblivious, suddenly there was a huge explosion from underneath, and she was violently knocked to the ground, and only had time to let out a miserable scream. Who was not far away saw this scene and shouted out Murong Qingxue anxiously. Murong Qingxue fell to the ground in a mess. Due to the pain did not get up for a moment. And at this time Fearless, little beauty, really fade off. You in the end still cannot escape the palm of my hand. She heard a voice. She heard the voice and raised her head violently. Her eyes widened, shocked to find that it was him again. But she had been controlled by the people behind her hands and feet. So her mouth angrily cursed. You Snow Eagle sect's little grass, how dare you mix into the Immortal Ledge Holy Land? You really don't know how to write the word death. Elder Fearless said that he would push in Yao Peak first today, and the men behind him came over with a sword and told him that it seemed to be of superior quality. Originally, he turned his head to look at it with a disdainful face, but after looking at it clearly, he realized that the sword was really good. The quality was indeed extraordinary, but why did he always feel that he had seen it somewhere before? It looked very familiar. At this time, Chen appeared from behind him in a gloomy manner, and when Elder Fearless heard this familiar voice, his hairs instantly stood up. I turned my head in embarrassment. So that's what this is about. The 7th senior sister was full of helplessness. Out of the 7 fellow sisters, only I have the smallest breasts. This is the biggest pain in my life. She went on to say, why don't I want to play with those sisters? You know, because one of them is so envious of their size. I couldn't look at them, and even more so, I couldn't forgive myself. A sword flashes in front of me. So, today you have to hand over the stuff. Otherwise, I will die with you. I thought to myself, this girl is going off the deep end, isn't she? We have to find a way to stabilize her first. I moved my sword away from my neck. I really don't have any medicine, but if you just want to plump yourself up a bit, there is a way to try it out. Hearing this, the 7th elder sister happily asked me, what method? Is it effective? I stretched out 3 fingers. As the saying goes, there are 3 treasures for breast enhancement. Silicone, soft pads, Rushan cloths. Silicone is quick, cushions are fake. She listens and aspires to this with fascination. I don't understand it, but I'm blown away. The conditions were sketchy. No silicone or soft pads, so I had to go straight to the 3rd trick. Sister then asked me how I got the silicone gloves. Sifu watched me put on the gloves. Is it going to be a straight massage? That's right. I'm going to rely on exquisite medical skills, directly stimulate the 9,981 points to release. Sister blushed. Okay, Xiao Chen can grow so big. Of course I can too. I'll do it. With that, the senior sister was ready to undress. Little Tatsu, please. I looked at my senior sister's chest and got a nosebleed. It's small, but quite cute. Sister turned her head slightly and closed her eyes. Let me see your divine clawing skills. Okay, I'm going to use my power. Damn it, I'm talking rubbish and she's taking it seriously. I can't help it. Let's make it a mistake. Offended, I cast countless hand shadows to touch elder sister's breasts. Elder sister moaned out from my touch and I didn't care about that at all. And on the Jade Peak side, the weather is sunny. The sect leader led the crowd here, followed by people from other peaks. All I saw was a whoosh of red light. Liu Qingxuan, a third-ranked elder of the Red Dust Holy Land, along with his disciples, paid a visit to the seniors of the Immortal Edge Holy Land. The sect leader looked at the people who had come, traveled a long way and worked hard. Please come inside. This year, the disciples from the Red Dust Holy Land are so few. In previous years, there were at least 50 of them. It's not like they can't get a leg up on us for years and years. The Immortal Edge Red Dust and the two holy places have been friends for 100 years. And in recent years, the Red Dust Holy Land's popularity has slipped quite a bit. According to the usual practice, there will be a dueling session at the dinner party, and I'll be the one from Xianyao Peak. So don't compete with me. We wouldn't dare, in terms of swordsmanship. The second elder sister thought of me at this time. But there is someone who is better than me. Xiao Chen's swordsmanship is already above mine, and he must be cultivating some more powerful kung fu now that he's chosen to go into seclusion. Right, and I'm sleeping on top of 7th sister at this time. It seems that her breasts have changed a bit. As a result, the 7th elder sister woke up and asked me with a stern look in her eyes, "Is it big?" I looked at my sister's breasts. They seemed to have slightly improved, and a little more massage today would definitely change them. In the end, sister wrapped me into dumplings to the edge of the cliff. Do you really think I'm good at cheating? Scum, if I don't kill you today, I'm sorry for losing my virginity. Speak clearly. When did I take your chastity? At this moment, Genie ran over. Just say to us that Holy Mother Xianyao asks you to go to Jade Peak immediately. She said there's a group of very weird opponents here. Here at Jade Peak, one person arrogantly said, I can't imagine that the Immortal Edge sacred ground has retreated so rapidly recently. There are several peak masters and elders from the Red Dust Holy Land sitting on the stage, and this man defeated our senior brother. Elder Liu then looked at the sect leader with complacency. My disciple under my door did not know how to strike. Please do not blame the sect leader. Originally, it was just a sparring match. This man stretched out his hand, extremely arrogant. Immortal Edge sacred ground. Can there be anyone else who wants to come up for instruction? 4th sister and 3rd sister looked at this man. The cultivation of the new disciple of the Red Dust Holy Land was so high. This man's stance is so strange. I didn't see how he made his moves. The sect leader spoke at this time. Do you the peak still have capable disciples present to fight? My mother then spoke. Master sect leader, Immortal Yao Peak disciple, Murong Qingshui is willing to ask for 2 moves. Good. Let Qingshui go on. The second elder sister heard the master call me at that moment. The 4th senior sister on the side then warned. 2nd sister beware. I directly pulled the 2nd sister, who was in no hurry, to watch the battle some more. The sect leader is looking at my 2nd sister who hasn't shown up yet. Where's Qingshui? How come she hasn't come out yet? Elder Liu on the side then scoffed. Is it possible that is timid in battle? The 2nd elder sister came to the master. Master, the disciple didn't bring the sword here and has sent someone back to get it. The peak master on the side was not happy. Dropping the chain at a critical moment was a laughing stock. Yiduan, you do it. Disciple in, disciple Yiduan of the Divine Core Peak. Please advise. Coming, the disciple of the Red Dust Holy Land jumped straight up and flew towards Yiduan. As a result, this disciple only used one strike to defeat Yiduan. Other anxious shouts. Yiduan, shut up. Wait for what? This man is so fast on his legs. Yes, so fast, but this is too fast. He's already beaten 2 of our disciples in a row. He must be killed. Congratulations to the host for activating the Supreme Pupil, which allows him to see through the flow of aura and discern the illusions of heaven and earth. I saw right through the behaviors. The disciple continues with another flying knee. Yidong can't defend himself at all. With that, he could only hit the wall with a thud. This disciple arrogantly eyed us. It seems that there is no need to compete tomorrow. There is no one in the Immortal Chance sacred ground to fight, and I could already see the signs. In order to win the tournament, they actually found veterans to pretend to be newcomers. That's a dirty trick. Seth's sister then asked me if I was sure. I came to the second elder sister and whispered in her ear, "Second elder sister, you go up to meet the bell. You just have to do this and then that." The second elder sister answered yes. Elder Liu looked at his own disciple so powerful. Things have come to this point. May as well just point it out. Where Red Dust Holy Land is not good to completely do not give the same way to Li face. The second senior sister stepped forward. Murong Qin Shui, a disciple of Jade Peak, came to ask for advice. The master then asked her, "Didn't you say you wanted to fetch the sword? Where's the sword?" Second senior sister responded with a smirk. "I've changed my mind. Against this kind of opponent, it's not worth using a sword. I can win just as well with my bare hands." Elder Liu covered his mouth and scoffed. "This lady warrior has a big mouth. Then let us see your stance. Please enlighten me." This disciple leapt up and rushed towards his senior sister. The blue light in his hand had been spotted by me. As soon as the second senior sister moved back, that disciple had looked dumbfounded. Sister pointed at the man across the street. "Come on, I won't hide this time." The man was infuriated. Blue light flashed in his hands. "So you can't hide even if you want to." And at this time, I put my hands behind my back and performed the formation breaking technique. And the blue light in the man's hand was directly annihilated by my golden light. And the man, though I had discovered but it's too late. Second sister hits the man with a top knee. The sect leader watched his senior sister's performance and praised her repeatedly, while Elder Liu on the side was stunned. These two peak masters are also talking beautifully. The fallen man, wiping the corners of his mouth, couldn't believe that he had actually been defeated. As expected, his super fast leg technique was reliant on the speed-boosting spell formation to boost his speed, and once it destroyed the spell's flow of true chi, he wouldn't be able to keep up with. Coupled with the fact that you have to maintain the disguise illusion, your strength is greatly reduced, and you are by no means a match for second sister. Next, I'll break your illusion and make you. And the man, whose face skin seemed to be detaching itself from his head, was directly shocked by the situation, and then this cheek returned to his own face. And I didn't succeed in revealing the man for what he was. The body stepped back as if realizing something. I touched my chest, and the master, and my formation was broken. The crowd on the stage were murmuring. Did I just blink my eyes? Why does he look like he's wearing a mask? I saw it too. This man just wanted to sneak away. The sect master caught the opportunity to taunt Elder Liu. "Ha ha ha, your sect disciples are also quite thin-skinned, only losing one game and fleeing in a mess." What the sect master said. The seventh sister asked me if it was a one named Liu. I thought for a moment. No, the person who attacked was above him. "A red-haired woman walks by here." Gulped. When I found her, I went straight after her, and seventh sister tried to shout me down. The man has come here to the forest and is sitting here on a plate, recovering his body. The red-haired woman then asked the man, "Did you see clearly who was secretly striking?" The disciple was foolish and failed to pay attention. The four peak masters of the Immortal Chance Sanctuary are all on the stage, so it was definitely not them who made the move. There are actually people who can recognize your illusion. It really surprises. Could it be the mysterious man mentioned by the Snow Eagle sect? That senior uncle who appeared out of nowhere? It's possible. With that, this woman will leave this place. So you seize the opportunity to regulate yourself. Yes. Thank you, Holy Son, for saving me. And I've been hiding behind a tree watching their every move. So it's the Holy Son of the Red Dust Holy Land. A Holy Son was the existence of a successor in a sect's power. So how could the Holy Son of the Red Dust Holy Land disguise himself as an ordinary disciple and accompany him? On the outskirts of the guest house, the small pond is dotted with stars, and the dense bamboo forest has a special elegance. Even the tiny lotus leaves that have just sprung up have a silly frog on top. Jiao Xiao, as the famous seventh sister, even accompanied a man to squat on the wall, waiting for a rabbit here in the middle of the night. I fought to open my sleep-filled eyes, and realized with a jolt that something strange was ahead of me. Only a few sneaky figures appeared on the opposite side of the street, quietly converging on a corner where no one had noticed, then quietly scattering in all directions. I was instantly satisfied and hooked a bad smile. There was no need to panic if they split up. Just follow one of them. The figure that had just separated to try round suddenly appeared on the periphery of a wall, and then he came to the courtyard with a flying leap. The man was masked and wearing a hat. It was hard to see who it was for a moment. He checked the map in his hand himself. It seemed to be here. Then he gathered a ball of light in his hand and threw it over like a piece of rubbish. The small ball of light fell to the ground, bouncing a few times, but also have returned to the original position, and then the man disappeared with a whoosh. Sam's sister was also a little curious about what this thing was for, and I also found it interesting, so I proposed to go over and take a look. With my night owl eyes, I crept forward to feel around, but the thing that was within reach was actually something that resembled a wooden stick. There was a faint flow of true chi on it. It seemed to be used to set up some kind of formation. The seventh senior sister suddenly exclaimed, could it be that they were going to plot against each other? So after a moment of dark thought, I inserted the stick back into its original position, not spooking the snakes yet, and went back to discuss the situation. We quickly entered the bedroom of the immortal Yao Sang mother. Mother revealed a look of disbelief. Are you saying that there is a conspiracy in the Red Dust Holy Land? If I'm not wrong, they're going to set up a super formation at the Immortal Fate Holy Land, and once it's activated, it'll be detrimental to us, but without full proof, the head elder won't believe us, and it's easy to scare people. After the Snow Eagle sect incident, no one could guarantee that there were no traitors in the Immortal Ledge sacred ground, so it was better to act cautiously before being completely sure of the situation. Yi Qingdao's brows were tightly furrowed. First it was a holy son disguising himself as an ordinary disciple, and now it was a secret formation. What on earth was the Red Dust Holy Land up to? I have a plan that might disrupt their plans, or at least discourage them from doing anything. At this time, outside the JP Hall, the sect leader went out with a big-breasted girl. Today we are going to the Tianqi Peak to exchange ideas. That site has been prepared properly. It just so happened that the Xinyao Peak Master flew forward, and his mouth was still shouting loudly. Sect Master is not good. She panted and looked at them. We found a disciple's body at the bottom of the mountain. After detection, it was killed last night. The sect leader immediately shouted angrily who did it. The murderer was caught or not. While the people behind him were talking, they went to the layout last night and didn't see anyone at all. Yi Qingdao respectfully clasped her fist to him. It should be the remnants of the Snow Eagle sect, hiding in the mountains and forests, waiting for an opportunity to commit murder and chaos. Big-breasted Beauty covered her mouth in surprise. There is actually such a thing. It's really hateful. Fortunately not suspected to our head. She quietly whispered in elder brother's ear, in case they harass the guests of the Red Dust Holy Land, we'll lose face. The master teacher's face became grave, and said something about having to protect the guests, and the big-breasted Beauty said anxiously from the sidelines that she didn't have to, but the duo acted as if they under him, and from today he'll be guarded by his best soldiers, and not a fly will be able to get in. So after nightfall, the quadrangle where the Red Dust Holy Land rested was actually heavily guarded. The woman knelt down in aggression. Our disciples can't go out and lay out what to do. The Holy Son was unhappy that she had disturbed his meditation. It was just a matter of waiting 3 more days, informing everyone to take a good rest in the next few days. The sister, who was so overbearing before, actually became so groveling after showing up in front of the saint's son. I stood above the quad and watched, and it seemed to work, so that bought me 3 more days. I must make a breakthrough in these 3 days. I seem to sense something. The Immortal Fate Sanctuary is about to suffer a great calamity. At that moment the scene changed and a large hand slammed down on the tabletop. Light Dance, you said that there are Snow Eagle sect remnants in the mountains, but the sect master angrily said that he came to a ghost shadow and did not see it. It's been 2 days and we still can't catch anyone. It's a disgrace in front of the Red Dust Holy Land. Light Dance explained in a half-hearted manner. Our disciples have already locked the location, and we will definitely have a satisfactory answer tonight at the latest. The woman was heading out of the Great Hall, her tiny toes flying down the steps. Murong Qingchua waited on the outside of the main hall. After seeing the master descend the mountain, he couldn't wait to move forward. What did the sect leader say on his side? I can only see that master's face is cold. There must be a result tonight. Any further delay will be detrimental to me. Is there any news from Xiao Chen's side? A cold sweat broke out on the corner of the second elder sister's forehead, but he was still in seclusion. I didn't realize that the seventh sister was waiting at the door, walking around with an anxious look on her face, and then picking her way through the cracks in the stone to check out the. Behind her there came the fellow sisters. They waved their hands to her with concern. How is Yao Yao? How is Xiao Chen out of the gate yet? He locked himself in there for 3 days, during which he didn't eat or drink and didn't move, so it can be that something has happened. They suddenly went over to the cave to check it out, but it was pitch black and they couldn't see anything in there. But the boulder in front of them actually violently clicked, and several cracks appeared around them. At that moment a bright light flashed. The crowd outside covered their eyes, and the stones inside the cave instantly shattered. I suddenly stood in front of several senior sisters and posed in what I thought was a very handsome pose, finally practicing the P1-9 swords technique, only to see that the several senior sisters within reach were actually sitting on the ground in a daze. With a look of having been hit hard, they reacted quickly and even tried to grab me. Even the little rabbit on the side showed a sympathetic look at me. At this time, the other side of the Holy Sun, who is lightly drinking tea. Our God imprisonment formation is delayed. Do you think it could be that Jade Heavenly Sun has discovered it? That sect leader was still furious about this morning, and demanded that Qingdao, that bitch, must get a result tonight. Elder Liu had a look on his face as he wanted to speak, and a figure appeared within the barrier behind him. The man was explaining his guess that it was unlikely that there were any more leaks from the Snow Eagle sect in this mountain. Saint Sun crosses his legs in displeasure. What can we do? Do we continue to set up the formation tonight? This person turned out to be Yi Wuyong, the #1 shit-stirrer in history, who said that he would make the preparations. So by the next day's banquet, the Lord sect leader was at the top of the main hall, personally apologizing politely for everyone. Just now, Light Dance has already told them that they've captured the man, this bold thief. They'd like to see what he looks like. After another night of fear and trepidation, a few figures suddenly appear in the guest house area, just as sneaky as last time. I then covertly hid behind a large tree and grunted with some displeasure as the fish surfaced, and it was time to reel in the net. Sure enough, the man came quietly again, and then intended to insert the wooden stick quietly again. I suddenly appeared behind him. What are you doing in the middle of the night in the middle of nowhere? It scared him. Seeing that the matter had been revealed, the man drew his sword and attacked me. Muffled shouts of death, but I smoothly gathered the energy in my body. After all, how could I let him get what he wants? The longsword in my hand. With my light movement, countless sword lights attack the enemy. This time I'll see how I can dodge it. The person who did the bad thing was quickly sent flying out. Only the sword light was really powerful, and it even split to the side with a bang. At this time to do bad things in the mastermind room, big-breasted Beauty feel a hint of wrong. So long those people are not back. The Holy Sun raised his eyes slightly and comforted softly. If that really happened, you know what to do, right? The beautiful woman seemed to be feeling dissatisfied, but she didn't dare to show it in front of the Holy Sun, so she could only say that the disciple understood. The dialogue between the two did not stop. Someone outside the door suddenly shouted, "Please ask Elder Liu Qingshen to come out to see you." She pretended to be unaware of that appearance. Also Steps also tends to go outside. So Lady Fan Master So Shinshishi, the so-called what matter, Peak Master Yi said he was leading his disciples to look for the thieves, but he accidentally bumped into these for sneaking around. I think they're setting up some kind of spell formation in my mountain. And when we were just about to make an inspection, they actually dared to rise up and injure people. Elder Liu expressed great doubt. That was really hateful. They were disciples of the Snow Eagle sect. Yi Feng Master directly does not give her a detour. You better look at it clearly. Do not pretend to be confused with understanding. The woman leaned forward slightly and looked into the faces of the four guards, then stated that it couldn't possibly be your men. It's just that the little guard was too scared to seek help from Elder Liu. She reached out angrily and pointed angrily in front of her. What on earth have you been doing in the middle of the night when you're not sleeping? The sect leader, Elder, flew in from above and accompanied him with a scolding. What are you doing bringing people to disturb the guest rest? Yi Qingdao immediately threw the charge at them. Senior brother, we caught the thief tonight. She has not yet explained in detail. Elder Liu even took the first step. Mr. Liu is not strict in disciplining his subordinates, but there are for little thieves. I am really ashamed. The sect leader chastised with displeasure. What is going on here? Are these for people the remnants? Only before he finished his words, a sudden sword light cut through them. A few people who were still alive and kicking now fell to the ground dead with blood splattered all over the place, directly blocking the mouths of many people. Only then did Elder Liu put away his long sword in satisfaction. The disciple who steals chickens and dogs is not worthy of being a disciple of my red dust sacred ground. Zhao Xiao stretched out her slender fingers. You are clearly killing people to silence them. How can you be considered to give us an explanation? The Holy Sun inside the door is observing from the window. It's really aggravating for you guys. For the sake of the Red Dust Sanctuary's 1,000 years of greatness, my guess was not wrong, so I quietly went behind the Holy Sun. The 1,000-year cause you mentioned is the destruction of the Immortal Chance Holy Land. There was a sudden boom in the room, and the tiny mansion actually exploded. The sect leader hasn't figured out the first thing yet. And what's going on over there? How come they're keeping him in the dark? I was fighting desperately from above, not caring about the prying eyes of the people underneath. After all, this was the #1 guy. The sect leader desperately tried to open his small squinting eyes. So it was Uncle Yi. Who was the disciple who fought with him? Liu Qingxuan tearless tilted his head. Lao Si in this side desperately mending pots. You make such a big scene. This time how to round back. The Holy Son was secretly shocked inwardly. Obviously his cultivation level was not high. Why was he looking for something so subtle? This was not the Gong method of the Immortal Chance Holy Ground. Yi Qingdao then had the time to explain for the sect leader. The 4 people who had just been killed were setting up a spell formation. The Red Dust Holy Land definitely had a plot this time. Elder Yu was caught between the front and back. What should we do to act in advance? But we are not ready yet. At that moment, at that distant rock, the 2 were talking quietly, and fortunately he had done a double take, which would allow them to move ahead of time. This bald guy with a big shiny head was holding a huge chicken leg. Ding Wuyang gave the instruction softly. Do it! No need to be polite. The Holy Son gritted his teeth and gazed at him with abhorrence, and his calm face became distorted for a moment. A barrier then erupted on her body, directly knocking me out. This woman is abominable. A drop of cold sweat broke out from the Lord sect leader, not expecting this high person to actually use the unaffable golden dipper. A flying jump landed beside the elder sister. The foxtail finally revealed how not to continue to pretend it. The sect leader's face was gloomy. If he remembered correctly, the undefeatable golden dipper is the secret method of the Red Dust Sacred Ground. Qing Yuan toned out or show up. Indeed, I saw it with my own eyes. The disciples of the Red Dust Sacred Land called her the Sacred Sun, but why it was passed on to her is unknown. One of the guards rushed forward with his slave, and then shouted, Master, it's not good. The Snow Eagle sect is invading. Before the young guard could finish his report, a sword light flashed in front of him, stabbing directly into his chest. A voice came from the distance, and was accompanied by a merciless mockery. Can you be faster than his flying dagger? The bald man is carrying a huge machete on his shoulder, followed by a group of aggressive disciples. Farewell, Jade Xiaowenche. It turns out that the bald name is so feminine. You repeatedly, and our Immortal Sanctuary is not good. Really disregard for the morals of the Zhonghu. English bald head suddenly left. The first robbery but you invited to go. At that time who said to rob the things 50-50 split? The sect leader touched his head in embarrassment, then pointed his finger at Xin Ao Peak. Tonight we share the same enemy and do not reopen old scores. English bald head directly interrupted their dialogue. Today he wanted to get back what belonged to him. And by the way, avenge Elder Fearless death. The Immortal Faith Sanctuary is blessed by a boundary. Last time, it was Ding Wuyang's trickery that brought him in. I didn't expect it to be him again, and he even waved happily to the crowd with a carefree look on his face. You peak lowered direct and angry accusation. You did not say to put him in the Sejong Cliff. How will he appear here? Only to see Ding Wuyang immediately collapse beyond recognition. Within the Immortal Holy Land, there were 2 people they hated the most. Then he poked and prodded his little arse, and one of them, the headmaster whom everyone praised, took away his behind. This was followed by quietly touching his little ding-dong, and the other he actually pointed at me, saying that I had taken away his front. The thought of it makes him furious, so it can't stop until it destroys you. The Red Dust Sacred Land has been friends with him for generations, so please lend a helping hand tonight when the main forces of their peaks arrive. But how they all had a look at this retarded look in their eyes really made the sect leader elder a little puzzled. I was speechless at this point. It's obvious that these decides have been colluding for a long time, just to mess with the Immortal Faith Sanctuary. Inside fighting, outside fighting. This rubbish man. In the end, how did he become the sect leader? At this point, the sane sunset cut the crap. The Vortex Immortal formation hadn't been set up successfully. Could he defend himself against the manpower of the other peaks? Ding Wuyang told him to relax, and in the afternoon, in the name of the sect leader, he sent wine laced with cartilage to all the peaks. He guessed that by now those people would have turned into a puddle of shit. At this time, the system suddenly released a mission. Now let me protect the Jade Heavenly Master and help the Immortal Fate Holy Land to survive this calamity. I snapped my nose in displeasure. It's fine to help the Immortal Latch Sanctuary. I promise not to kill Jade Heavenly Realist. Okay. For his part, English Baldhead said that it would stop talking nonsense and finish off these few rubbish of theirs first, before going on to slaughter the entire for peaks. Peak Master Yi immediately summoned all the disciples, each with a grave expression as they prepared to meet the battle. I sneered quietly and disdainfully from the back, casually reaching out to unleash the skilled 10,000 swords and attack them with vigor. The crowd expressed their astonishment. What kind of technique was this? Actually able to control so many swords at the same time. Yi Qingdao was also stunned for a moment. Those sword chi emanations were the matching swords of the successive ancestors of the Immortal Chance Holy Land. I don't care how surprised they are. We're under siege now. We can't afford to fight. We've got to get out of here first. The patriarch immediately folded his hands in reverence and prayed, and said that he would immediately go to bring help. But the Holy Sun is not so good to deal with. Instantly summoned countless minions. How can you let you escape the claw formation? I was slowly surrounded by the crowd, but did not understand the matter, and a question mark suddenly appeared on the top of my little head, only to see them quickly reach forward with both hands, and a strange energy suddenly appeared in their hands. I didn't realize that they were using another secret technique, but it was actually the famous God-binding formation. Some senior sister secretly swung a sword light, but found that it couldn't be fired at all, so she was really trapped. Old Man Yin laughed with satisfaction. When we finish cleaning up these flying swords, then we'll clean them up together. At this time, the Holy Sun also started to put out vicious words. My red dust holy land's art of formation can be described as mysterious. Dealing with a few of you is no problem at all. I'm still not happy about being locked in there. Being the genius, open-minded person that I am, doesn't this thing have a weakness? Senior sister sighed darkly. The only weakness is those disciples, but our men are sealed inside and can't attack them. I don't believe in such discouragement, so I quietly put out my hand in a gesture of I'll try it. Only the sword just now flew up at once, surrounding the enemy on the periphery, with a great feeling of a duel to the death. The people who were still maintaining the barrier had no way of detecting the sword chi, and even if they did, they could do nothing about it. It seems that the Holy Child was the first to notice. She used her divine secret technique, the undefeatable Golden Dipper, to resist my attack. Although this did not harm me, I still found it strange, and could not help but look more closely at the How did they do it? The swords were in their teeth, and they didn't move. Sect leader, this rubbish is still a bit of a brain. The disciples of the Red Dust Holy Land first practiced the state of mind. The only way to maintain the big formation is to have an unperturbed heart. I suddenly reached up and rubbed my chin. In that case, I had a great idea for breaking the formation. I pushed the rubbish pumice down in front of the woman, and reminded him to stand still and relax, but not to tell to exactly what to do. At that I revealed a perverted look, mobilized my body's psychic powers, and directly toward the old man's clothes to shreds. Show yourself, old baby. The little guard, who was confident just now, is now spitting blood out of his mouth and weeping from the corner of his eyes. Mental pollution is the most deadly of all. The young guards were puking madly on the sidelines, while the pumice clutched his body in horror and shouted. But this was the best chance to. I didn't realize that more than one person was puking. The rest of the group were puking profusely, and the saintly lady was straight up in the dark about how bad it was. Worthy of being the headmaster Q's huge, but the headmaster is full of black lines and says that he wants to die now. The disciples fled after their master, and soon arrived inside their respective peak lands. When the disciples inside shouted, Master has finally returned. When they arrived at Qianyao Peak, Yi Qingdao urged all the disciples to activate the protective barrier immediately, so the opponents who followed were all blocked out, unable to move forward at all. Apparently there were still some head-iron people in existence, who even used their own bodies and slammed headlong into the top of the barrier. But it did manage to get in, but it still fell on his face and white smoke started to come out of his body. This intruder is slowly being corroded, leaving only a white bone. The crowd outside the barrier cursed the damn thing. Don't worry about them for now. Leave 10 people to keep an eye on them. The others go back to tackle the other 3 peaks. The stalker also stayed away and reported when he spotted them coming out, and the rest of them said they understood. It seemed that the other 3 peaks were in trouble, so Peak Master Yi had no choice but to issue the lane shout order, calling all the disciples outside to come back for support. So the ground exploded instantly, suddenly exploding with a loud bang and rumbling straight up into the sky. The Holy Sun and that English-bald man were a little puzzled, and could not help but look upwards to survey what that thing was. Obviously the mole is a very well-informed person. Qianyao Peak is recalling his disciples, and when they all come back, it will be even more troublesome. The 3 peaks of the Jade Heavenly Court will soon be under our control, even if some of our soldiers come back. It's nothing to be afraid of. Dean Wuyong stated that it must not be careless about those disciples outside Qianyao Peak. Only his words had not yet been finished. Then he was picked up by the woman with one hand. Pay attention to the way you speak. He was instantly overwhelmed with fear. She would never be the saint's son himself. At this time the little guards reported forward that there were still some masters resisting at the 3 peaks, so we could only advance in secret. The Holy Sun said he didn't like the delay, and the bald elder shouldered his machete, then said he was going to the front line, and it would only take an incense burner. With this opportunity, Murong Qingxue did not dare to be distracted and meditated on the spot. Instead, she snapped her eyes open and looked at the slender figure in the distance. I did not perceive the situation at all, and still walked forward furtively. I didn't expect the second elder sister to stop me with a direct shout and show a very puzzled look. "Xiao Chen, what are you doing?" I had already stiffened in place, and then I looked at my second elder sister with embarrassment, not knowing how to lift up my trousers for a while. The second elder sister's reaction was even worse than this, directly covering her little red cheeks and screaming, so I was the first to come back to my senses. "Second sister, I am going to change into snow equals sex clothes, and after blending out, I'll find a way to take out Hanin or Saint's son." As expected, the second elder sister did not agree at all, and said that it was really dangerous too. So how could she take the liberty? Instead of sitting on our hands, we should take the initiative. There's no way around it. Apparently she also figured this out, and it was hard to escape from Xinyao Peak, so she took another close look at me. "Any more clothes?" Murong Qingxue secretly clenched her fist tightly, and said that she also changed and followed me out together. I had a nosebleed. "The clothes are there, but you might feel chesty in them." Within a few peaks in the distance, there were fires almost everywhere, accompanied by shouts and slogans. Now it's impossible to tell whether the dead are enemy or friendly. Green Mushroom had reported to him that Jade Peak had already been taken, and the other peaks were no longer in the picture. Next, messing with the Divine Chord Apocalypse, and finally rushing up to Xinyao Peak to have a good time. All of them immediately smiled lewdly and heatedly. As expected, there are still some small scouts. Their eyes are good but not their strength. She reported to the sect master that Yi Qingdao has run away from the back of the mountain with her men. The bald men simply wouldn't allow this to happen, and instantly broke into a rage, immediately giving chase after him. A tiny lake in the distance, with several figures standing around it. The little scout who had just looked worried, now actually had a gloomy face, and simply ignored the threat of the person behind him. It turns out that she was secretly activating her skills, and a pillar of water was formed in the lake. Old Han Ying reacted instantly, but his little guard wasn't so good, and was directly hit in the abdomen by the water jet. So he shouted to withdraw at once, and the people fled at speed, clenching their teeth. "If you want to escape, you'll have to go through me, with countless long swords shooting at you. It's not certain who will die." The old man is really worthy of being the door master, but also has 2 brushes, and directly avoided all the. Then he scoffed loudly, his eyes looking squarely at the longsword in front of him. "Is that all you've got?" At this time he shouted at his father, "If you have the ability to come out to fight with him, hiding in the darkness of the Imperial sword, what kind of hero?" I've heard enough of this kind of harsh words, and then nodded to him in approval. "You sneak attacked and poisoned very dang, but I was successful in my sneak attack. I stabbed him in the chest." Then the old man still had the strength to swing his sword. "But I'm not much of a hero. I just beat you guys like vegetables, and it went better than expected." The old man scolded me for learning such cheap tricks at such a young age. Totally unethical. The second elder sister was furious. "You stinking old man, what right do you have to talk about us?" But I still stopped my senior sister. I wanted to take turns to solve the problem, but I didn't expect to catch 2 big fishes at once. It turned out that the 2 figures that appeared above were the mysterious Saint's son and Ding Wuyong. The Holy Sun seemed to look at me with displeasure, and actually taunted me like a cockroach. "Just ask who can't stand it." Ding Wuyong laughed like a madman. He knew I would have big ideas. How could I fool them? Henin held back his wounds. Fellow Taoists came at the perfect time. We reasonably killed this kid first. It seems that this saint's son still has some brains and knows that I'm evil, so she plans to use a formation against me. Henin is puzzled and scratching his puzzled little bald head. "How am I going to cooperate with you?" Only to see the Holy Sun, who was incredibly mysterious, actually put his hands together to gather energy, and indicated for him to stand still. I didn't realize that the bald head, which had been very lean just now, was now violently expanding down scenes of times. What was even more surprising was that this saint's son was absolutely ruthless, even using the blood sacrifice prisoner of the underworld formation.